Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Veena ji, will you do the invocation, please?
Yes, sir. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवानारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयधृतजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनि कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तक केशवः पाराशर्यवच सरोजममल गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुत तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
अथ एकादशोऽध्यायः विश्वरूपदर्शनयोगः। So we are now in the so-called climactic chapter. So the entire build-up to this has been. So what is this? Why am I saying that we are saying climactic chapter in any movie? Where does the movie end? The movie should end at the climax. Here, the climax is happening somewhere in 2/3 of the way. And then after that, for almost 1/3, we have entire discussion happening. You see, what happens is, in the first 6, and I'm reiterating because it puts things into context for us to be able to understand it a little better. If you look at the first 6 chapters, there was a very deep discussion on the nature of the individual self and making us understand that I, the wave, am nothing but water. I, the wave, am nothing but water. I'm using my wave, ocean, water analogy, which is an easy thing to understand for all of us because it has been consistently being used. So I have also looked at this entire thing and understood that what I am seeing as body, mind, intellect is an attribution onto something called the self. It is an attribution on something called the self, right? When you look into the mirror, is the reflection, are you dependent upon the reflection? Is your nature of yourself, your understanding of yourself, is it dependent upon the mirror? Clearly no, right? If the mirror is hazy, you see a hazy reflection. If the mirror is those trick mirrors, you see those trick mirrors in these parlors, or even what those fun parlors and all that. The concave mirror, convex mirror, you see suddenly you've become fat, you've become thin, you've become like a pipe, whatever, all of that. Your sense of self does not change. The reflection is completely dependent upon you. The reflection is completely dependent upon you. If you are not there, there is no reflection. Right? So similarly, the snake is completely dependent upon the existence of the rope. I'm sorry, I came back to the snake and rope. Without the snake and rope, we can't proceed. Right? So the snake is completely dependent upon the rope. The rope has nothing to do with the snake. Right? It is attribution that is happening. So in the first chapter 6, up to chapter 6, that entire process, including the process of how to arrive at that conclusion that what I am seeing as the body, what I am seeing as the mind, what I am seeing as the intellect, I am the witness consciousness. I am that which is Sat Chit Ananda. That was chapter 6. Having attained that, have we attained moksha? No, we can't attain moksha there because you have arrived at a point where you have still duality. One of the oldest philosophies in the world is called the Sankhya philosophy. And the Sankhya philosophy does not arrive at non-duality. It arrives at a point where there are two. There is something called you, the universal consciousness, and there is everything else, which is called matter. And therefore, they classify it as a particular thing called Purusha and Prakriti. Right? Sri Ramakrishna beautifully put it over there and said, both Purusha and Prakriti are nothing but a manifestation of the original Brahman. That is Advaita. That is Advaita. And there, Advaita therefore says that even Prakriti is nothing but Brahman. Prakriti itself is nothing but Brahman. So even the ignorance that you are having is also a manifestation of the Brahman. Now, that's a very powerful statement. And therefore comes the next point. See, I was in the Himalayas in one of my lonely sojourns that I used to have. Just give me one. So in one of those lonely sojourns that I used to have, I was somewhere in Gangotri area, and small hut. I was sitting and meditating, and there was another Swamiji, very senior monk, and he was there. Very incidentally, Swami Sarvapriyananda has also met the same monk, and he has even mentioned about that particular monk. Even his language, he would never talk about anything other than Advaitic. His talking itself, his words itself were all Advaitic. His language was Advaitic. So a very interesting question was asked. And the question is, when I am looking at this intellectual understanding of the Advaitic reading, I was reading, Swami Sarvapriyananda has mentioned that he was reading the Ashtavakra Gita, which is a purest Advaitic text. I was reading the Bhagavad Gita at that point of time. So, and to both of us, incidentally, he has given the same advice. And I have heard this not from Swami Sarvapriyananda directly, but in one of his talks, he has mentioned this. And he has said, Swamiji says that when I went to him in Ashtavikra Gita, he said, Swamiji, kya pad rahe ho? What is it that you are reading? And Swamiji said that he was reading Ashtavakra Gita. And Swamiji, the senior sadhu, says, ये अच्छा है, साथ में विष्णु सहस्त्र नाम भी पढ़ो, नहीं तो अकेलापन चुभेगा. अकेलापन चुभेगा. The loneliness will bite you. That's such a beautiful statement. You see, both he, Swami Sarvapriyananda, me, and so many seekers like us, we have gone into this solitude, seeking the solitude. But unfortunately, in that solitude, we carry with us our mind, we carry with us our intellect, we carry with us our body. And that body, mind, intellect construct starts creating a desire for company. So he says, so then seek company, but seek the company of Ishvara. So study Vishnu Sahasranam, study Lalita Sahasranam. And very strangely, I mean, at that point of time, Swami Sarvapriyananda was told to study Vishnu Sahasranam. I was told to study Lalita Sahasranam. And how this monk understood that I am a worshipper of Devi and he would be a person, perhaps a pure Advaitic person who will then say Vishnu, Vishwam Vishnum Vashatkara. Amazing. Look at that. So that essence of devotion that is required was brought in chapter 6, where we were told to sit down and hold a particular concept in our mind. Kenopanishad very beautifully says, the mind of the mind. How does the mind think? How does the eye see? And it poetically says, the mind of the mind, the eye of the eye, that consciousness, which is Kenopanishad in talking about, that consciousness I cannot grasp. I cannot understand. I cannot see. I cannot perceive. Because I am still limited with my body, mind, intellect construct. I have intellectually understood that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. I have intellectually understood it. But it has not yet happened for me. It has not yet become an experience for me. And then, how do I interact with this cosmos? I have understood that so chapter 6 has taken me to that essence where I have understood that I am a jiva. I am not this body, mind, intellect. I am something which is much more eternal. I am something that is far more pervasive. I am something that is essentially what one can call as water. Chapter 6 took us there. So chapter 7 to chapter 12 is a process whereby we understand how to interact with this entire world. How do I interact with this world? And therefore, he took us to chapter 8, Akshara Brahma Yoga. Akshara Brahma. Short chapter, concise chapter, but talking about that which is essentially the entire universe. Then he understood that Arjuna will not understand this. So he brought in a little bit of science into it, a little bit of intellect into it. And he tried to explain that through chapter 9, where he said, Rajaguhya Rajavidya Yoga. Right? There is a science in it, Vidya. While it is a secret, there is a science in it. So examine it from there. He still understood this chap is like us, Moodha. Right? So then he says, okay, now this chap, he doesn't understand. Let me see if I can show him the clay in every pot. Let me show him the clay in every pot. And then he starts, amongst the Adityas, I am Surya. Amongst those who are well-versed in the Shastras, I am Shukracharya. Of all gurus, I am Brihaspati. And so on and so forth. Right? Of all the things that float around in the sky at the night, I am Chandrama. I am the brightest. So on and so forth. So he goes on into looking at the best, the highest of everything in the existence. And then he closes that chapter with a very powerful statement saying that wherever you see power, wherever you see glory, wherever you see eternity, that is coming from a fraction of what I am. Fraction of what I am. See, our Rishis were very, very, very beautiful in their poetic expression. I mean, whether it was a Rishi or whether he received it from in his dhyana is we can debate that. In the Purusha Sukta, he says, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sa Bhumim Vishwado Vritva Yatte Trishta Dashangulam. He goes beyond this universe by 10 fingers. He is extended beyond this universe by 10 fingers, which means that the universe is encapsulated within the Purusha. Right? Now, who's 10 fingers? Who has measured 10 fingers? That's a poetic way of expressing that he has extended. Brihati, that which has expanded. Right? Brihati, karoti iti, Brahman. That which has expanded is nothing but Brahman. So, he tried to get to that point where he says, okay, now if you are, when I'm looking out of the window from my house here right now where I'm sitting, I can see a palm tree. And if chapter 10 has become mine, I have owned chapter 10, which means I have done Nididhyasan on chapter 10. I have done Manan on chapter 10. I have revised chapter 10. Then immediately that palm tree should remind me of Ashwatha. And in Ashwatha, Krishna in chapter 10 said that Ashwatha is him. Right? My mind starts moving away. Two things happen. You may be a devotee. If you are a devotee, then the I has become smaller. If you are following, that is, if you are following the path of devotion, then your I has become smaller. Everything that you see around you is an essence of that particular eternity. So you, me, has become smaller. That small I, it really becomes small, right? Because now cognitively you can understand that, oh, that brick house that I can see, he is essentially that also. I am nothing. If you are from the Jnana Marga, intellectually dissecting this, then also you come to the same conclusion that, oh, the same atoms that make up that is made up of me. Panchabhuta. I occupy the same space. I have the same amount of water, and so on and so forth. So that intellectual Samkhya dissection that happens, and you say, oh, okay, whatever I am perceiving as me is nothing but Prakriti. There is something behind which is called Purusha. Chapter 10 took us to that point. Yes, Raghuji.
So when I was thinking of,
sorry. Let me just introduce. We have Ravi Ramaswamy with us today. Ravi, Parthoda, you know Prakash Swami, Kailash Yatri with us.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram. Prakash's younger brother, Ravi, he lives in Madurai. And he has been part of the Somananda group for a long time, but he has chosen to join right now. Perhaps he's been watching the videos earlier. So, welcome, Raviji. Yes.
Namaskaram.
So, we keep saying, and we project this or promote this spiritual path as a way of salvation, as a way of liberation, of nirvana. And one thing struck me, that is part of social engineering there. In reality, when you realize that the question of that identity that you're trying to get rid of and become the infinite identity, that identity doesn't exist anymore. It's gone the moment you realize. So what happens to it? Is there any value to liberating that? It doesn't matter. It is irrelevant. And does that mean that Parabrahman will not at another time decide that he's going to make one more Jivatma and go through he will do it. I mean, it's not even this is the process.
Very good.
This is
Very
part
good,
of
good.
that Leela.
Yes.
So of course, to me, to some people, that realization may be a little damning in that, oh my God, then why the hell am I doing this? But to me, I look at it and say, okay, so what? I mean, it still is, it's an interesting thing that our seers have wanted to put this like this. Maybe they
So,
wanted to induce people to
so if you look
seek
at
that.
Nirvana Shatakam, what does it say? It also says that I am not moksha.
Yeah.
Correct? Nirvana
Yes.
Shatakam in it says that Name
Na
moksha.
kavam, na krodham, na lobham, na moksham.
Correct. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I'll come back to
na
it.
dharmo, na jartho, na kamo, na moksha, chidananda rupa, shivoham. Right? That is what he says. So, I am not moksha also. Right? The word nirvana is a very beautiful word. The word vana means to burn. The word bhavana, yet we are all burning. Burning with what? Burning with the whole action of running towards what we like, running away from what we do not like. I will encourage all of you to read a very beautiful, it's available on Google. If you search for it, you will find the lyrics or the text of that. It is called the Fire Sermon. The Fire Sermon by Gautam Buddha. It's a sermon which talks about how this entire world is burning. Nirvana means extinguishing this burning. It is not talking of saying whether I will come back or liberate, or all those are, it's a very simple, practical application. Nirvana, I am got rid of the suffering. Suffering of what? Suffering of joy and sorrow. Because joy is going to bring one more sorrow, then that sorrow will bring one joy, and that cycle I have broken. That is the definition of nirvana. Then we come to the Jaina definition, which is talking of kaivalya, only oneness. And finally, then you come to the definition of Advaita, which says moksha, which then is only a goal till the point that also drops off as a goal. So, good point that you raised. Wonderful progression in our thinking that we need to have. And that comes back to chapter 11 now. So, when he brought this point to that point of Sankhya, Purusha and Prakriti, you need to take one more step and jump. And that step to jump towards that is chapter 11, where he has now put in front of you a question. Can you see all possibilities in the clay? I showed you the clay in every pot, chapter 10. Now I am showing you a bunch of clay, and I am now inciting you to look at that entire bunch of clay and visualize, experience, forget visualize, experience every possibility of pots. Now what will happen? All the possibilities of pots are going to come from your past experience only. He breaks you out of that. And in breaking you out of that, he has to give you a difference of perception. That is what is called Divya Chakshu. Right? I like that TV serial. You know, in the TV serial, when they show the Mahabharata, then suddenly Krishna raises his hands and some rays come out of that hand, and the rays go into the eyes of Arjuna, and then Arjuna's eyes start glowing, and nothing of that sort has happened. Right? I mean, it's a good way to project to what cannot be actually explained, but it's a complete change in perspective of seeing all possible pots in the clay. But when that happens, when you see that oneness, and you have not yet lost your own consciousness of body, mind, intellect as you, what will happen? You will start feeling afraid. You will start shivering. And that is what happens with Arjuna. We will get into details of each of these shlokas, and he starts shivering. He starts getting fear. The fear of the unfamiliarity, the fear of dissolving, and not realizing that this dissolution is actually is immortality. Right? I have shared this story earlier. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa asked his disciple, Rakhal Maharaj was there, and he asked, if a bird comes to the ocean of nectar, how will it drink? So Rakhal Maharaj said, it will go to the edge and it will drink from the edge of the water. And Thakur started laughing and said, it is Amrita, it is Amrita. He should jump in. Right? But then we are all like that bird, isn't it? We will sip from the edges because we have not yet lost our own fear of losing our identity, which we believe is our body, mind, intellect. And hence we are holding on to it. And so does Arjuna. Then fine, Arjuna has seen this entire universe and he has had a complete epiphany. Then why are we lingering after that? Because having seen momentarily induced by somebody who is already there is not your permanent experience. Right? So you will see that people, when they approach people who are Jivan Muktas, they get into an emotional state, they get into a spiritual trance. In the Ayyappa cult, as we go, you will find there are a lot of people who are, when Ayyappa is invoked, the actual invocation happens into that body, and that person's energy body completely changes. I mean, I've seen that happen with a lot of people. People who have been with this cult for a very long time, and their devotion to this form of the Lord is so high that when that invocation happens through the certain mantras, the person's complete energy body changes and he manifests that intense energy of Ishvara for a very few fraction seconds. Now that happens, right? But is it yours permanently? Is it your living experience every moment of the time in whatever avastha you are in? Whether you are in Shushupti, whether you are in Sapna avastha, whether you are in Jagrata avastha, are you in that avastha which is a witness to all these three avasthas? The Turiya avastha. To attain that is the rest of all the chapters. The rest of all the chapters is that Asi, the joining. How do we join these two? How do we make these two possible? How do I make this something that is mine forever? Which is why bhakti, definition-wise, as a yoga, comes only after chapter 11. It cannot come before chapter 11. Because bhakti is what was described by Prahlad. Bhakta Shiromani Prahlad describes it. Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat. That Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat for Prahlad is a reality. It is not something which are words. Even Narad Muni, who is the teacher for Vyasa, who is the teacher for Sukadev, he, such a huge personality, he also, when he was seeing this form of the Lord sitting there, long nails, hands up to the elbows, covered with blood smeared in his mouth, falling all over his body. Instead of the Vaijanti Mala, he is wearing entrails. He is wearing the intestines dripping with blood. He has pieces of meat stuck to his teeth. He has a dead body of an asura, who is Prahlad's own father, on the lap, and he has torn that apart. So it's a gory scene. And incidentally, that person is not dead. He's suffering. He's dying. He's in the throes of about to die. And Bhagavan Narasimha is roaring. And each roar is shaking the foundations of this entire universe. Shiva tells Lakshmi, go, calm him down. Otherwise, he will take away my job. He's supposed to do maintenance. I am the person who's going to do all the destruction. He's taking away my job. Go and calm him down. Lakshmi says, no. This can't be my husband. I have never seen him like this. He is the chap who lies down and gets his feet pressed and he's always sleeping with a smile on his face. Nice blue color, yellow dhoti. Very nice chap. This can't be my husband. And Prahlad has no doubt. He just walks. And he goes and stands in front of that terrible being. A being that has never been seen before. See, that is the impossibility coming true. Have you, before Narasimha, before you ever heard of that, would you have even imagined such a being to be in existence? Look at Prahlad's story. Such a being could not have been in his imagination. But then that being appears, he has no doubt in his mind that even that is Vishnu. Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat. Bhakti can only happen when that vision of every pot in the clay is visualized. And hence, chapter 12 is the chapter on Bhakti Yoga. And post that, for 6 more chapters, we will study how to join them. So now let us, with this, if there are no questions, we can begin with the first verse of chapter 11. Right, let us start. Yes, please. Yes, Parthada.
I was thinking of another perspective, if that holds good. Arjuna, in all these steps, and I was also questioning in chapter 10, why Krishna has to explain all this to Arjuna. And finally, I'm getting a sense that Arjuna was getting transformed bit by bit. And I think in 11, he came to a stage of total surrender. And in total surrender, this shift came, like we are talking of moksha. It is actually, I am not existing any longer. I am merged into you. I am nobody. That's why I have the feeling that through Jnanamarg, if you go in all these steps, that is why Bhakti Yoga came after 11, and maybe Krishna is telling, you can achieve this, all may not be as fortunate. Through Bhakti Yoga, you can also achieve the same thing, you can merge with me, and or you can do through all these steps, questioning, understanding, and finally surrendering yourself to me. So, I don't know that I have jumped.
No, so good. You see, as long as we have an identification with the body, mind, intellect, it is important for us to have something which I call the higher ideal. The higher ideal helps us to anchor ourselves. It is a safer path, incidentally. Let me put it like this. It's a safer path because otherwise you may get trapped in your extreme dry intellectualism and actually not remove your ego, but make it more powerful. I am more knowledgeable. I have studied the Vedas. I have studied this. I have studied that, etc., etc. Or other alternative, you get trapped into the jalebi of questioning. And now you question your own questions. So it can be unsafe. And it requires, therefore, some very strong directional teaching. Whereas holding on to a higher ideal, whether you call it Krishna, whether you call it Ayyappa, whether you call it Devi, whether you call it Vishnu, it doesn't matter. Holding on to a higher ideal, you call it Guru, right? The physical form of the Guru, it doesn't matter. And you hold on to it, literally hold on to it in with your mind completely, right? Mam Yaji, he says, no, in chapter 8, chapter 9, he says, Mam Yaji, completely, continuously worshipping me. When that happens, that higher ideal, it slowly transforms. And then you arrive at that same conclusion that the Jnani has also taken more trouble to arrive at. Right? You arrive at that same conclusion. Very beautifully, Swami Abhedananda, another direct disciple of Sri Thakur, he very beautifully mentions, he was a very strong Advaitist, very, very strong Advaitist, right? Unlike Swami Vivekananda, who had a very strong devotional streak in him, Rakhal Maharaj was completely devotional in his approach to the divine. Abhedananda was a very strong Advaitist. And in that strong Advaitic thinking also, in one of his writings, he says, if a jnani is not a bhakta, he has not yet attained Advaita. So beautifully he says, if a jnani has not attained bhakti, he is not yet a jnani, he is not yet an Advaiti. An Advaiti has to become, by definition, what do you love the most? What do you, as an individual, what do you love the most? Me, myself. Irrespective of whatever you say just now, I can prove to you with logical argument that it is because of you that you are loving it. Whatever it is, your child, your possessions, your material, it is because of me. Right? Oh, I
Two
love my
things.
son.
One is that I love myself, and I also believe 100% that I exist. Other
Yes.
things may exist or not. I may have
Perfect.
questions.
Perfect.
But I exist.
Perfect. Right.
Yeah.
So your existence, you are not doubting. You are not doubting that I love myself. Now, the bhakta has seen himself, perceived himself, experienced himself in everything. Now, what has happened? His love has transformed into universal love. That is why Swami Abhinandan says that a bhakta is one who is actually an Advaiti. A true bhakta is an Advaiti. He has only one existence. Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat, when Prahlad says, he is not excluding himself. Everything is Vishnu excepting me. No. I am also Vishnu. It is only that I am reflecting some part of it. But I am also Vishnu. So from there, let us start. Arjuna Uvacha. Sorry, Raviji, we are using any text that you have. It doesn't matter. Any text of the Bhagavad Gita that you have is valid text. Most texts have the same translations or the same words. There are one or two which have a slight difference. If you find something, then you can always bring it up. So, Arjuna Uvacha Mad anugrahaya paramam guhyam madhyatma sanjitam Arjuna uvacha mad anugrahaya paramam guhyam madhyatma sanjitam yatyoktam vachastena yatyuktokta vachastena mohoyam vigato mama yatvayoktam vachastena mohoyam vigato mama madanugrahaya paramam guhyam madhyatma sanjitam yatyoktam vachastena mohoyam vigato mama mad anugrahaya, having anugraha to me. What is anugraha? Anugraha is translated in a literal sense as compassion. However, there is a different meaning of that. Graha, the word graha means to hold, right? It means so that is why you have the Navagraha, right? And he who holds is called a graha, right? In the Dhyana Shloka, we have seen that there is a graha, right? So the graha means what? Crocodile. It means crocodile. He who holds. Graha is that which is the act of holding. Anugraha means that which releases from holding. That which releases from holding. So here is a literal, not a literal meaning, a hidden meaning of the word anugraha. You have given me you have given anugraha to me. You have shown kripa to me. And I always, again, use this. Brahman is what? Consciousness. Brahman is what? Ananda. Brahman is what? Existence. Fantastic. Why am I not experiencing the Ananda? Very simple. I have closed the windows of my mind. Now, if I have closed the windows of my mind, is the compassion, is the kripa, is the Ananda stopping to flow? It is going to be continuously flowing. Like the sun. Guru Dattatreya says, one of the gurus, one of the 24 gurus that I have, my second guru, he talks about is the sun. He says, showing equality to everything. Brahman is very equal to everybody. Ishvara also is very equal to everybody. Ishvara in the earlier chapter we have seen, I am not partial to anybody. Krishna says, isn't it? He says, I am not partial to anybody. And I shared that one story where the king was doing a Satyanarayan Puja and the thief was stealing in his house. And the Lord then comes to the king. And the king says, but Lord, I have been calling you for such a long time, you didn't come. No, I just went to the thief who's stealing from your coffers. Because he called with more devotion. He called with more passion. So I had to go there first. And then what does he say? In the earlier chapter, we have also seen that anybody who starts on this journey is a sadhu. And we saw examples, right? We saw example of Valmiki and so on and so forth. Anybody who starts on this journey and anybody who attains on this journey is called a Buddha. So these are very beautiful distinctions he uses in words. And therefore here, Arjuna starts off by saying that by giving anugraha to me, mad anugrahaya. How does this anugraha happen? Anugraha is not something that he does specifically. Anugraha is his essential nature. But by your lecture, my mind has opened. I have started thinking differently, which he says very clearly in the second line. Mohoyam vigato mama. My delusion is dispelled, which is why I am now experiencing your anugraha. And you gave me this very secret knowledge. Paramam guhyam adhyatmam. Adhyatmam sangitam. Adhyatmam sangitam, spiritual knowledge. Guhyam, very secret. Why is it secret? No, everybody knows about it. Why is it secret? It is secret because the next moment after this class is over, the coffee, the dosa, the rasagulla will pop up. And the knowledge will vanish. And the moment the knowledge vanishes, it has become a secret again. Right? That is exactly why even in our the stories that are retold, they are called Purana. Purana means Pura cha navinancha. Pura means old. Navina means new. That which is old, but yet is also new. Because you read the entire Purana and then you have forgotten the stories. So Pura, because it is talking about something which happened in the past. But when you read it, every time it is a new reading. Every time there is a new story that comes up. Because you forgot them. So Pura cha navinancha. Old yet always new is called a Purana. Similarly, this is a secret. Right? We talked about it when we were doing chapter 9. Raja Guhya, Raja Vidya. Why is it Guhya? So here we understand. He says Anugraha. He is coming to the Anugraha. Paramam Guhyam Adhyatma Sanjitam. Yat means which. Tvaya Yoktam. Uktam means spoken. Yat Tvaya Yoktam. Yat Tvaya Yoktam. Vachastena. Vacha, words. Tena, by that. So what you have spoken, what you have told, by those words, my delusion has been dispelled. What is that delusion? The delusion is that I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. That delusion has been completely dispelled. So, hey, Krishna, great, you are great. So he starts off in verse number 2. Bhavapyayo hi bhutanam. Bhavapyayo hi bhutanam. Shruto vistarasho maya. Shruto vistarasho maya. Bhavapyayo hi bhutanam. Shruto vistarasho maya. Twatah kamalapatraksha.